The WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, Francis Tapon. And you know, there's a lot of people that you see about in social media that make a whole bunch of fuss and attract a lot of attention. And then there's a ton of people that you almost never hear about. And I'm interviewing one of them. And he's just as remarkable as some of the most amazing bloggers travel bloggers that you might know out there. In fact, somewhat more impressive. He's a 66-year-old man named Blanchard. And he is just astounding, the amount of adventures that he's had. He's hiked half of Madagascar. He's walked the Camino, Santiago. He's thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail. He's done half of the Continental Divide Trail. He's hiked the Annapurna circuit. He's swam across the river in Madagascar. He's hiked up Everest Base Camp. He's hiked all over the planet. He's biked across America. He's done cruise ships. He knows a ton about longevity. There's just so much you're going to learn from this episode. It's a 2-hour mega episode, very entertaining. We share lots of adventures. It's one of my favorite episodes I've done so far on this podcast, so enjoy it. Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm here with Blanchard. How are you, Sim?
Very well, Francis.
Okay, so Sim and I, we've known each other for years, and I really admire, you're one of my heroes. I mean, really, what you've done with your life is truly amazing, and I want to I think it's an inspiring thing. I want to impress people with what you've done. So you're 66 years old, or 66 years young.
That's right.
and tell us a little bit about your life, kind of where you were born and raised.
I was born in Los Angeles and grew up in Whittier, prettier Whittier. My dad was an engineer, my mom a housewife.
You were an engineer too, right?
Yes. I got a degree in mechanical engineering as well as mathematics.
Okay, where did you get your degree?
At Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Okay, right there. It's a very good school. It's school,
I enjoyed that. Yeah, Cal State Fullerton for the mathematics.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, now did you grow up kind of in the hippie era?
Yeah.
Did you have long hair once?
I did.
I mean, you still have hair. You have more hair than I do.
The big inspiration for me, besides drugs, was the travel. And so hitchhiking was the big thing. So I headed off across the U.S. to see the country, and then got excited about that, and then decided to hitchhike with a friend up to Alaska, and then down, and then all the way across Canada to Newfoundland, and then back down to Boston and back again.
How old were you when this happened?
I was about 20.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I decided to hitchhike down to South America.
And what years were this?
This was it. I hitchhiked to South America in 1974.
Okay, you were getting away from anything, or
I wanted to go into engineering, and the whole market collapsed. There was
the oil shock.
Yeah, the oil shock, and there's big unemployment, and so I said, well, rather than do that, let me go hitchhike. Okay. So I did, and that was the big thing in the hippie era.
Right, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people, when the shit hits the fan, they look for jobs more passionately. They're like, shit, it's so hard to get a job. I got to work my ass off. I got to find a job. When in fact, the best thing to do might be get the fuck out of Dodge, enjoy a little bit of life, come back when the economy's better, when it's easy to get a job.
Exactly. And actually I had a degree in math, and when I came back and I got a degree in mechanical engineering, they were dying for engineers, and we were making more money than our professors in entry-level jobs. So
that's amazing. And what year you came back?
I came back in 75, and then spent the next few years getting my engineering degree, and then I went to work for public utility based out of San Francisco.
PG&E.
PG&E, yeah, in 1981.
Got it. And then how long were you working for PG&E, this public utility?
I worked for them officially 33 years, and then 3 years as a consultant.
So you were working stiff.
I was. And it was amazing because I was able to travel a lot beforehand, back hitchhiking to South America. And then I hitchhiked around New Zealand for 4 months and Australia for 7 months. And
that was all in your early 20s?
Early 20s, yes. And then when I decided to have a career and settle down and have kids, then that just kind of went out the window. We did a few trips, but really it was kind of the stability and having things safe and stable for my children.
And when did you you didn't lose the travel bug, but when did you decide to finally cut the strings and go crazy again and rejoin your hippie roots and wanting to travel and all that stuff?
Well, it was after my kids got into college, or probably my last one went partway through college. And then I thought, okay, now's the time. And my wife, or my ex-wife, wasn't too excited about traveling, and I was, and so I thought it was unfair that she paid for my stuff and I paid. She wanted a new swimming pool and a remodeled kitchen. So we had a wonderful marriage and a wonderful kids and a great divorce. So I'm on good terms with her, and I really enjoy seeing her. But I just love being independent, and I think she does too.
Right, and so. How much did the pool and the kitchen remodel? Well, how much was that going to set you back?
Well, that'd probably be $30,000 probably $50,000.
Right, and so then you said, well, I could take that $50,000 and travel for quite a long time with that.
Exactly, and the money that I would spend traveling, she could have used it for the remodel and the pool. So,
right,
yeah. So it goes both ways.
Okay, and so one of the things that's so inspiring to me is that here you were at 65 years old, busting your balls out, walking with me in the middle of Madagascar. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, that was tough hiking. There was a mud-filled paradise, and you were out there slogging it out in the mud and the rain for days on end in a place where you couldn't even speak the language. You got mugged. You got somebody popped you in the face. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, the trail was 182 creeks that we crossed, rivers, and the last one we had to swim across with Rejoice, and she couldn't swim. And so that was quite an adventure.
Tell us about that moment, because I remember it very, very well.
Oh, yeah. We came up to the river, and we couldn't figure a way to get across, and Francis went up and down the river trying to find a way, and we tried to wade across a few times.
This river was approximately 50 meters across, approximately?
Yeah.
Maybe at its narrowest point, it was maybe only about 4 meters across or so.
Exactly.
But at its widest point, it was like 50. And Rejoice is my wife. She cannot swim. She grew up in the desert.
Yes. Yeah. So we filled our packs with air as much as we could.
How did we do that?
What did we do?
We used our water bladders,
yes.
And then we blew air we emptied out the water, and we blew up air in the water bladders, and any kind of container we did. And also we used a tarp to wrap it around things, and the tarp itself kind of has a certain amount of buoyancy when you wrap up, let's say, your sleeping bags or any of your food and that kind of stuff. That was one way to do it. But yeah, to create buoyancy in the pack so that the pack actually can float on the water, and it becomes a flotation device, especially for Rejoice. We basically gave all that bag of air to Rejoice so that she could be, even if we fucked up, she could still float on her backpack.
Exactly. Yeah, I went over first and pretty much paddled. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Right.
And then I grabbed onto one of the branches and reached out for Rejoice when you brought Rejoice over.
So let's set the scene for the people so that they can kind of imagine what this was. Is that it was a wide, like 50 yards, 50 meters across, and then we could wade into the river up to a certain point, in which case the river became deep that you couldn't wade anymore. You would have to swim. And at that narrow point, the water was rushing at a high velocity. The only good news for us swimmers is that soon thereafter, it became a kind of a placid pool. So it wasn't like white water from there on out. It just was that narrow. So even if we got flushed out, at least we'd be flushed out into a kind of a placid pool, but still it was pretty violent, the speed that water was coming through. And it wouldn't have been such a big deal if Rejoice hadn't been there.
Right. Yeah. That was the challenge. Yeah.
I mean, when you have somebody who doesn't know how to swim and you got to swim across a river that's like a white water river, things get complicated.
Yeah, it was. Although it doesn't probably compare with your adventures going across the river and climbing the highest mountain in Madagascar.
Yeah, that was another. Yeah, that's right. We had another
talk
river,
about
so that's
that
another
sometime.
story. Anyway, well, yeah, but this story was fun.
Yeah.
So what you basically did is you had the courageous step. Here you are, 65 years old, just jumping into this river and getting swept away by the white water, and you're going downstream at a fast pace, and you grab onto a branch, hang on to your dear life, and then you're like, okay, I'm stabilized, I'm down, I've got a solid footing. And then you're like, okay, you and Francis and Rejoice, both of you jump in simultaneously. I kind of would be the the person right next to Joyce, give her some comfort, and then hope that she could then somehow grab a hold of you, get outstretched arm.
Yes.
So she had to, and it was a very funny sensation. There we were. We get into the river, and then all of a sudden we're as deep as we can go. We're past our waist. And I said, okay, Rejoice, the next step is too deep and we're going to be swimming. And she's like, okay. I'm like, do you realize what that means? And immediately we jumped in, and then all of a sudden we get swept away by the water. And then Rejoice has this utter look of panic. Right? All of a sudden,
stepping off.
Yeah. When all of a sudden the ground underneath you is gone. And this is not a big deal for somebody who knows how to swim. But if you don't know how to swim, all of a sudden the ground is no longer there.
Yeah, she was not confident at all, but she did.
She did great.
Yeah. We went right across and up on the other side. Well, we were right towards the end of our hike. So this last little bit, it's like, okay, we're almost done. And we made it across. But then it turns out we thought we were completely done, and we had to walk, 2 miles across muddy trail.
Yeah, and muddy trail it's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell that you can describe that, but mud fest like I've never seen mud in my life.
Francis has a wonderful video on him tromping through that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So, and then tell us about how you got punched in the face and mugged.
Oh yeah, I came back. I hiked up. I was off by myself, and I hiked up this mountain. I forgot the name, and came back to my the hotel I was staying at, and I made a wrong turn, and it was a little cottage right on the ocean. And this guy joined up with me, and I said, where's this hotel? And he said, oh, it's just up a little ways. And we were hiking, and we went on too far, and finally I said, well, I'm turning back. And so all of a sudden, boom, I got a punch in the in the side of the face.
From the same guy that you were asking the question?
Yeah, from the same guy. And we were by ourselves. And so he says, give me all your money. So I got it.
Was it a hard punch? I mean, like, they didn't knock you down on the ground?
No, it wasn't a big deal.
It was just like a wake-up call.
Yeah, wake-up call, something to say, hey, give me your money. So I got in my karate stance, and then I gave him my money. and he was looking around, and he was scared, so it wasn't like, oh, this is something they do all the time. And so, so he took all my money. I didn't have money for a taxi guy. And for a taxi.
Didn't you ask him, can you leave me a little bit of money?
I kind of did, and he said no.
Were you speaking in English? Because, I mean, he's a francophone.
Yeah.
But you think he understood?
He spoke a little bit of English.
Okay.
And on the way back, I met a retired French person who gave me like 20 francs so I could catch the taxi back.
Okay.
Yeah.
You told him, I just been mugged.
That's right. That's right. And he kind of said, yeah, you got to keep half your money in one pocket so you can give it to him, and then you got the rest of your money in the other. So it was just money. It wasn't any document. It wasn't my passport. So. And
in Madagascar, also, people started throwing rocks at us.
Yeah. Oh, to me, that was more frightening. Some kids started throwing rocks, and good thing Rejoice had her umbrella up, but one of the rocks fell on it and broke it, and she could have been hurt. And there were like 12 of them, and it looked like, it could be really dangerous. And these two Seventh-day Adventists rode up on their motorcycle, and we were able to stop them. And they knew the boys, and they were able to talk to them. And one of the boys was the chief's son, and so the Seventh-day Adventist reminded the kid that he was the chief's son and he had responsibility. So he helped walk us out of that situation. As soon as we got out of sight, we ducked into some bushes and hid out, slept there overnight just to make sure we avoided them. But to me, that was more dangerous than what I experienced with the sucker punch.
When did you get into backpacking, like wilderness backpacking?
I did a bit when I was younger. We would...
In your 20s?
Probably in the 17, 18. A friend of mine, we would go down to the beach and sleep out on the beach, and then we did some hiking in the mountains.
And because then you started doing Thru-hiking. Then you hiked. It was the first long trail that you did. I mean, you did it through section hikes. You did the PCT. You started with that.
Actually, my real start was a friend of mine and I hitchhiked up to Alaska, and so we did a number of hikes in Alaska, and also Banff and Jasper.
You didn't do the Brooks Range, no?
No, okay. No, south of there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do the Brooks Range.
Oh,
have you ever even seen it?
That would be so awesome.
Have you even seen it?
No. But
there's this girl, a woman. I don't know. She's pretty young, in her 20s. She did this at least 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. She basically did a through hike of the Brooks Range. She wasn't on the crest. Most of the time, she was just on the side of the Brooks Range, but still the scenery. I mean, a lot of times when you're next to the mountain, the view can actually be more beautiful than when you're on top of the mountain, because you get to admire the mountain.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I hope to do that sometime. Honestly, I did the John Muir Trail when I was like 26.
This was before you got married?
Before I got married.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after I got married, then I did the Tahoe Rim Trail, going around Tahoe, and then finally did the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail.
You did that in sections. How many sections?
Sections. Yeah, it was probably about 4 sections.
Got it.
And I was working full time, so I developed a computer program, kind of an interface for project management, so I could do it from anywhere. So as long as I had internet. And so what I would do is I'd mail my PC to the next trail town, and I'd hike to there, and then I'd take it and I'd do work pretty much during the week, like 3 or 4 days during the week, and then I'd mail it to the next trail town and then hike.
What year was this?
That was probably 2009 through 2016.
And you were in your 50s at that point?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And actually before I got the motivation to go hiking and do exercise, I was kind of grossly overweight, and so I lost 70 pounds, and started eating right and having a better lifestyle and getting exercise. And part of that, of course, was backpacking.
We'll get into the longevity stuff, because this is something that you really know a lot about, Sim. You've studied it. You've found out. We'll get into that. But first, I want to focus more on your travel experiences. A lot of people, especially once they get, after they have their whether they have kids or not, they say, I'm too old to travel, this kind of stuff. How did you kind of break the cycle of dependency? And now you're like homeless.
I am home free, I like to call it. But yeah, I sold my house.
Hold on. Tell the story about that guy. He says, "Hey, are you a homeless guy?" And you said, "Yeah."
Yeah, I was just in Nashville about a couple of months ago, and I was walking down. The homeless guy says, "Hey, are you homeless?" Because I probably look homeless. I go, "Yeah, I don't have a home." He says, "Where are you staying tonight?" And I says, "Oh, I'm in this hostel over here." He says, "Oh, well, you're not homeless." I go, "Okay, well, I really have it good," because he probably didn't know where he was sleeping that night.
Exactly right. Right. So you're home free, as you say.
Free,
and when did you become home free? What? Because at some point you were living, I think, in San Ramon in the Bay Area, and then, but even there, it was just a simple, like a 1-room thing, right?
Yeah, 1 room, and
you were making good money. I mean, it's not like you couldn't afford like a 2-bedroom place or a 3-bedroom. You could have. Yeah,
I could have, and you inspired me, Francis, and it's kind of live below your means. And so I would save as much as I could and just spend my money on experiences and not material things. So I did have the place in San Ramon, but I just took like 100, 2 suitcases, and the rest I gave to my landlord and said, "Here it is. It's probably worth about $10,000, but you have to get rid of it." So so home free. I haven't had a car for like 7 years. I mean, I do drive, but if I have to, but mainly public transportation and Uber.
Right. And so this is fascinating. Like, you've really gone minimalist.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so for somebody who's struggling about trying to go minimalist, where do they start? Like, how did you start? Where'd you get going? Like, what was an easy first step for you to take?
I guess it was figuring out my lifestyle, or what was important. And I finally figured out it's backpacking, bicycling, and travel. And then I just got the basic things that I needed to do that, and got rid of everything else.
What are some of the accomplishments as far as distance and you've done the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah.
You've done the Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah.
You're in the middle right now of doing the Continental Divide Trail. You've accomplished how much of the Continental Divide Trail you've done about 70% yet?
No, a quarter.
A quarter, okay.
Yeah, 800 miles.
So you did, but I thought you did all of New Mexico.
Pretty much. I'm missing a little bit.
That's like 700 miles, isn't it?
Yeah, 800. I still missed a section. My mom passed away this last May, so I had to take time off. So there's still a section in
Okay,
New Mexico.
and then you're next in 2019, you plan to do the northern part of the CDT?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do finish up New Mexico and then hike north from Salida up to Rawlins, and then
Rawlins is in Wyoming.
Wyoming, yeah. And then I may zip up and do the Great Divide Trail, which goes from the border of Canada up to, I believe, Jasper. And and then maybe areas in Montana too, depending on how much time. We'll probably be heading over to Burning Man with you.
Yeah,
so
let's hope so.
I'll take a little time off.
Yeah, I hope so. So tell me about this time on the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail. You section hike it. Now, one of the things section hiking, obviously you can pick the best time of year to go on each section. That's one of the beautiful things. You don't have to tough it out through the hot, humid summer if that's not what you want. If you want to see the foliage, you go in the fall.
Exactly. Yeah. You pick the right time. And the challenge of that is that you kind of have to be in shape all the time so that, it's not like, okay, I'm just doing it in 1 year and you're getting into the rhythm and you go. Whereas here, I'll usually do about 800 miles or 1,000 miles at a time, but then come back the next year and have to start off. And usually I do about 30 miles a day, but it depends. Appalachian Trail was a bit slower. I thought that was a bit tougher, but Continental Divide Trail and the PCT I think are a lot easier. As far as the going straight up and straight down. But
who would you say is better suited for the Appalachian Trail? Somebody would say, you know what, you need to go on the Appalachian Trail, not the PCT.
Well, it's more of a social trail. And you have to be in really good shape, because you're going hand over fist up and down. So, yeah. And
the one exception I would say is the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
The Mid-Atlantic is pretty flat. It's rocky at points.
Rocksylvania is a little bit rocky. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But overall, if that's pretty. But yeah, there's certainly in the New England, it's especially in New Hampshire and Maine,
South Maine.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
That's southern Maine is tough.
Yeah.
Real tough. It's you're from California and you think, I'm from California. I hike these 14,000 feet. This is only 4,000 meter, 4,000 foot mountain. Who cares? And then you get your ass kicked.
I got my ass kicked. Yeah, yeah, it was bad.
Did you suffer any injuries?
Yeah, probably about every injury. I had plantar fasciitis and tendonitis, and I fell in Oregon. I fell and broke my ankle and my shoulder, and I had to walk 20 miles to get out.
Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, just hiking along. I just finished hiking the lava, and it's just past Sisters, north of Sisters. And
this is in Oregon.
Oregon, yeah. And one of my foot slipped, and I had a
slipped just walking on the trail.
Yeah, just walking on the trail, and it was on the side of a cliff, and I think my ankles were sore or whatever. And one foot slipped, and the other one rolled, and then I just went, and my backpack was cinched in. I had a hip belt at that time. I don't have a hip belt anymore, and I fell right on my shoulder, and it dislocated. And I had to pop it back in.
And you were alone?
I was alone, but there were other people, and a couple people met me I met with a couple people, and they checked to see if I was okay.
Okay. So how long were you alone after the accident? How many minutes? It
was probably about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you sat there for an hour? I suppose you weren't moving for an hour.
Yeah,
you didn't hop up and okay, pop in my shoulder and keep walking. Let's go.
Actually, I did.
Okay.
and I fell again.
Oh,
I must
brilliant.
have been. I didn't think I was, but I think
fucking idiot.
I know. I rolled over off the side of the trail, and a big rock fell right on my chest, and I had bruised ribs. I don't know. I must have been really tired. I didn't think I was, but I was, and so yeah. So I got up on the trail, and a friend of mine who was hiking with me, he helped me over to a campsite, and so I slept the night there, and then hiked the 20 miles out, and got a ride from the ranger, and he took me down to Eugene, and then I took the train down, and went to the hospital, and they I was getting an X-ray, and the nurse said, "Put your hand up up to this level," and I went and did that and dislocated again. Yeah, and so the doctor had to shoot me with, took 20 minutes and finally shot me with a pain reducer, and so they got it back in.
And then how long? And then what? After 1 or 2 days, you went back on the trail?
No, I had surgery, and
okay.
yeah, and got that fixed. And
were you were done for the season?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I came back next season.
You're not. You're kind of okay. You're not. You're kind of a pussy.
Yeah, I am. I am. I don't get off on
adrenaline. If you're a real man, you would have gone out and hike that fucking trail. Go to the end.
Rough as guts, mate.
Okay, so then, but you went back the next year to complete the section.
Yeah, and complete the rest of it. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, kind of like convince people why section hiking is the way to go.
If you've got a full-time job and trying to make money, and you want to, and you feel like you can come back each time to do those sections, and you can hit the right season for the right place. I don't have any transportation. I don't have a car or anything, so I kind of need to time my sections based on public transportation, buses and the like, and trail angels. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
What kind of advice would you give people who are getting close to retirement, as far as they have fears about traveling, about backpacking? How would you get them to get off their ass?
The alternative's horrible. If you sit and watch TV and are sedentary, your chances of heart attack and cancer and everything else, you need the vitamin L for lifestyle, and that means eating right and exercising and getting enough sleep and having a good social environment. And
talk about the vitamin L.
Yeah.
What do you mean by vitamin L?
I mean all those things. The nutrition. Yeah. Nutrition, getting enough sleep, the right exercise, socially, being connected with people. And you get all that on backpacking. I mean, you're out in nature, you're getting lots of exercise.
Fresh air.
Hopefully you're eating right. That's key.
Right. The water's really great.
Yeah. Don't, I usually don't filter it. Right. And, and I usually go to bed when the sun goes down and get up when the sun comes up. So you get into the circadian rhythm, which studies show that that's really healthy for you.
Right. No, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Sleep is paramount.
Yeah. And it, despite my getting injured a few times, it's really healthy because you're just walking, you're just hiking.
Right.
And
low impact.
Low impact. You're not running. You're not jogging. It's low impact.
But I think also low impact is helpful because you go relatively light. I mean, you're a pretty stringent backpacker. Give us an idea of how heavy your backpack is without food and water.
Yeah. Without food and water, it's about 6 pounds.
Wow. So that's like less than 3 kilograms.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so I know you use Gossamer gear as a backpack. Any other your favorite gear that you like to use in your backpack?
Yeah, it's the
you have Z-Packs.
Yeah, it's the Breeze, and I have Z-Pack sleeping bag, and I've got a bivy bag. Z-Pack bivy bag, and a Z-Pack sleeping quilt. And platypus bladder. I have a 3-liter bladder, not in me, but that I carry, and with a filter, so inline filter. So,
and you're a hydration nut. I never seen somebody drink as much as you.
I love to drink.
You're a total addicted to water.
Yeah. So I'm sipping all the time.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you pee during a hike?
As often as I can, probably once every couple hours. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe about 15 times a day?
Yeah, if I can.
Something like that, yeah. Well, that's actually less than, if it's only a couple of hours, it's less than 15.
Yeah.
I do it sometimes 20.
Oh, is that
crazy?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking that's the hard part about women hiking is that they're reluctant to pee in the wilderness, so they don't
bring an umbrella.
Yeah.
That's the secret. I think that if a woman carries an umbrella, not only do you get shade and rain protection, but on top of that, you get a free privacy screen.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean they can put up a privacy screen, put up their umbrella, and just squat, pee,
and nobody can see you. Even it's on a busy trail. It's like creating a tree, right? Blocking the view. I mean, it's pretty great for a woman, I think.
Yeah, great idea. And of course, when the sun's out, that umbrella is perfect for reducing the temperature by about 15 degrees sometimes.
Now, Sim, you went up to Mount Everest's base camp, and
Yes.
your son actually went to the fucking summit.
Yeah. We about 5 or 6 years ago, we both hiked up to the Everest base camp, and then I did Annapurna circuit, and then my son came back just this last May. He climbed Mount Everest, and he's climbing the highest peaks on each continent, and he's finished them all except for Denali in Alaska.
Which he tried twice?
He tried twice, and the weather got him, pushed him back. So I think he's going to try again.
Do you know the details of what exactly happened on the weather-wise? I mean, he just didn't have enough food to wait out the storm?
They waited out about 2 weeks, and I think they have a certain period of time that they do that. But it's, just the storms, and a number of people died up there during that same storm. Yeah, not in his group, but in another group. Wow. Yeah.
And he was doing the Western Buttress?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, that's what most people do. It's the kind of the most popular way to get up to the summit of Denali, and it is it's just a walk. In other words, it's not like vertical climbing with all this kind of stuff, but it's not easy, and a lot of people underestimate Denali. They think it's like, oh, it's only 20,000 something feet, but it's because the latitude is so high and because the temperatures are so cold. It's a real ball buster.
Yeah, especially when storms come in. And he's got a really good suit now that he brought from Everest. So he said he feels a lot more confident about doing Denali, and even by.
Did he have frostbite
himself.
out there? I mean, did he
No.
have? So, but why is he much more confident? Did he have a shitty suit before?
Just that he'd feel more confident going out into storms and going and dealing with high winds and really cold temperatures.
Yeah, because normally Denali takes 3 weeks, I believe.
Mm.
And so if he was sitting out there for like 2 weeks waiting for a storm to pass, then you just chewed through all your reserves.
Right, yeah.
And the other thing is actually you have more reserves than you think. I imagine I've never done Denali, so I'm talking out my ass here, but I'm guessing that there's a lot of caches, food caches that people abandon expeditions, and so there's got to be in caves and little places like that here and there. You can probably find like 3-year-old food that's been sitting there, but it's like freeze dried. I mean, it's totally fine. It's been frozen and everything, and even if it was. And it's probably totally edible and fine if you just find it and you can kind of stretch yourself out. I remember the story of this guy who went up. I think he was Swedish. He was Scandinavian, and he took his bicycle from Scandinavia and he biked all the way to Mount Everest.
Oh my goodness!
And then he climbed up Mount Everest, and on his way to the summit, he either ran out of food or something like that, but he found a food cache full of butter. Oh, no. And he just gorged on pure butter. Oh. And that gave him enough calories to get up his ass to the summit and get it there. And I can't remember if he biked back to Scandinavia, but that was his thing.
That's great. Yeah. I love those.
And so tell us about your trip up to the base camp of Everest. How was that? Did you feel it was like overly commercialized, or did you feel it was still a thrilling adventure? Was it challenging, or was it easy to acclimatize?
It was enjoyable. It wasn't really difficult. It's a nice trail and there's a lot of people on it. I mean, I kind of like it. It's like the Camino, Santiago. You get to meet a lot of people.
You didn't do the Camino though.
Yeah.
You have not done it.
I did the last 100 kilometers, and I'm going to finish the whole thing.
Wait,
all the way to Finisterre.
You did do the last 100 kilometers?
Yeah, with my girlfriend. It was the first one. And then this year we're going to go.
You've done so many adventures, I can't keep up with you.
I'm trying to keep up with you, Francis. You're my inspiration. Damn.
Okay, but seriously, okay.
So it was a nice hike. There's a lot of steps, especially Annapurna base camp. You
mean the circuit?
And the circuit. There's a base camp, and then there's a circuit also. And
aren't they on the same trail?
No,
they're not on the same trail.
No, you got to do separate.
Annapurna base camp is not in the circuit.
No, that's separate. And actually, the circuit's getting smaller and smaller because they keep building the road farther and farther along the trail. But no, it's separate. And Annapurna Circuit, it's just beautiful.
How much do you have to pay for a permit for Annapurna Circuit? Do you remember?
I think it was free.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you just pay for the hostels along the way and that kind of stuff? The huts?
Yeah.
Because there's pretty much a hut everywhere. You don't really camp outside, I imagine. It's pretty developed.
Yeah, we did the huts.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, the first Everest base camp, we got a Sherpa just because we weren't familiar with it.
Okay,
and
so
he was great.
You had just one Sherpa for the base camp?
For Everest base camp, yeah.
Right. Okay,
yeah.
and so it was you and your son?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
No. And then
but wait, so at that point, he wasn't planning to gun for the summit at that point?
No, not yet.
He was just dicking around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'd done Kilimanjaro before.
Okay.
Yeah, and he got inspired.
And then he had altitude sickness in Kili.
Yeah, he got altitude.
Did he vomit?
Yeah. And they had to help him down and everything. And now
what do you mean help him down? Not on a stretcher?
No.
Just kind of like put an arm around him?
Yeah, put an arm around him. And
he was kind of wobbly?
Yeah. I mean, he did great. And going up, he was...
How long was it, 6 days?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
We did the Coca-Cola route, so it was the easy one. We wanted to make sure we went up.
Yeah, but it's not an easy route because you go up so fast. The Coca-Cola route on Kilimanjaro is actually tough because you got to acclimatize really fast, and if you don't have the luxury to acclimatize.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. I think it's easier if you took 7, 8, 9 days.
Yeah, we did 6.
Yeah, that's pushing.
I mean, some people do 4 and 5, but
yeah, I did 5 the second time. The first time I took 9 days.
Oh, okay.
And I felt equally shitty on both.
Is that right? Oh my gosh. That's
the first part of the reason, just to give you some background for the people who are listening, part of the reason is that on the 9-day one, I was sick before we even started.
Oh no.
So I was already sick at whatever base. Before I even started hiking, I was already not feeling well. And
was that from the malaria?
I don't know. I don't think malaria was the problem. I can't remember if I had malaria at that point or not. But anyway, no, it wasn't that. It was some other thing that it was I was queasy. I was not feeling great. And so as I was getting higher in altitude, I think the sickness was not allowing me to acclimatize as fast as I would have over a 9-day period. So by the time I got to the summit, I vomited right there at the summit. And then a couple of years later, I went with Rejoice. Oh. There we did it in 5 days, and I got to the summit and I vomited again. But there for clear altitude, 5 days is really pushing it. Some people can acclimatize fast. I cannot. Yeah. But you do pretty well.
I've been fortunate. I haven't had any. I did a little bit in Bolivia when I was hiking, but nothing since. And my son got a tent that is oxygen deprivation tent that he would sleep under, and that helped him a lot too.
Okay, and then you spent your son Tim spent like $100,000.
Yeah, that's what he said to climb Everest.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, it's on the high end.
Yeah,
I know that people can do it for as little as probably $25,000. It's probably nowadays the 2019 prices are probably $25,000.
I had heard 50 or 60, but
I'm talking about like real bottom basement. You go to the Chinese,
maybe so.
The Chinese side of Everest is cheaper than the Nepalese side.
Oh, okay.
And so I think if you go to the Chinese thing and you don't have you have one guide for like 10 people and no Sherpa and very little oxygen, and basically you cut every corner you can. Yeah. Then it's probably like because the permit itself, just the fee that you have to pay with the government, I think it's around $15,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
He got a really good company too.
Yeah, he got top of the line.
Yeah. I forgot the name.
And
of it.
everybody made it in his group.
Yes,
which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So now maybe one day I'll talk to Tim, but can you share some takeaways that he had from that Everest journey? It took him 6 weeks, I imagine.
2 months. 2 months. Okay. Yeah, and he was pretty wasted when he finished. I mean, he was bulked up. He had tons of muscle, and I kind of mentioned, shouldn't you get some fat on you? And he says, no. I'll just burn the muscle off. And so So when he finished up, he said he looked like a scarecrow. I mean, usually he lifts a lot of weights and stuff, and so he came off, and he said he had to work out for quite a few months to get it back.
God, yeah. No, you tip to people who are listening. You don't burn off the muscle.
Really?
No, in other words, you don't want. In other words, you want to build up. If you're gonna do something like that, it's burning muscle. That's
that's what he did. He said, "I'm going to burn muscle," and so he did. I mean, and because it uses a lot of energy.
It's just not efficient. It's not efficient.
Yeah.
The body burns the muscle when it has no other alternative.
Right. That's right.
It's not an efficient energy store.
Well, but the muscle helps get you up the mountain. So
yes, but anyway,
I was surprised when he told me. So you could be right, but yeah, he made it.
He made it. That's all that matters. Yeah. And did he find it overly commercialized? Was he turned off in any way, or he's just totally stoked?
I think he was totally stoked. I didn't hear anything about
negative.
Yeah, negative. No.
Okay. And did he find that there was a lot of prima donnas, or people like had short roped and just kind of this kind of shit? Stuff that you read in Into Thin Air by John Krakauer.
He told me that there were a lot of real interesting people, that could afford $100,000 to climb, and so people from that you'd sit in the tent with for 6 weeks, and talking with them, and so he made a lot of good contacts and people that have interesting life stories.
He's about 40 something.
Oh, my son just turned 30.
Okay, just turned.
Yeah,
he's a young pup.
Yeah.
That's great. So talk a little bit more about the minimalism that allows you to do what you do, Sim. Like, how much shit do you have?
It's down to about 100 things, and basically it's everything, just the things I need to do what I want to do. So I've traded material things for experience, and so I've narrowed it down to just backpacking, hiking, bicycling. I do want to do canoeing later.
You have a bicycle?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one of your 100 things.
Yeah.
You have a toothbrush.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I actually took a bicycle ride across the U.S. from Oregon to New Hampshire.
What year did you do that?
2014. Yeah.
2014. You went from Oregon to New Hampshire. You didn't get to the Atlantic coast, you pussy?
Yeah, New Hampshire on the coast, Portsmouth.
Portsmouth? Oh, so New Hampshire touches. I didn't know New Hampshire touches the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot.
Right over from Amherst.
Yeah.
Hike across.
Wow. Who knew?
Yeah.
But as Donald Trump said, who knew? Who knew New Hampshire had coastline? New Hampshire has coastline?
Yeah.
God, I got to move to New Hampshire. They have like a different tax system too, I think.
Probably. Yeah.
They have like either it's only property tax or something like that. They have like no sales tax and no income tax, and I think it's something like that. Anyway, they have a unique taxing system in New Hampshire.
Huh.
It's a different. I know they don't have an income tax. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 85% sure that they don't have an income tax. But anyway, so you biked across Oregon to New Hampshire, and that was in 2014.
Yeah.
And how was that experience? You did it with a group, right?
It was. And
what is it? What's the name of the group?
America by Bicycle. Highly recommend it. And
how much was it?
Yeah.
Approximately. I mean, roughly $1,000, $10,000.
Yeah, I think it was about $2,500 or $2,000.
And what do you get for that?
They give you breakfast. They have support bands.
They just give you one fucking breakfast? No, just kidding.
Yeah, support vehicles and snacks along the way, and usually a lot of times dinner, but and then they put you in hotels, and it's like 3-star, Best Western, and the like, and they've got
so the hotels are included, and it takes about 3 weeks, a month.
50 days, 7 weeks.
That's nice.
Yeah. Average about 80 miles a day.
Yeah, that's like it's intense, but it's doable.
Yeah. It wasn't
It's
hard.
like a 8-hour day or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally doable. I mean, for somebody like you who's done through hikes where you do 16-hour days.
Yeah, it turns out I've got a lot of stamina, but I don't have speed, so I
Yeah,
just
but
went
that's
slow
fine.
and steady.
Yeah. I mean, that's the
love it.
secret to all your hikes and all your endurance shit that you do.
Exactly. I'm not an adrenaline person, so
This is something that those of you who are older than 50, who kind of feel discouraged, this is one of the great things about these endurance sports, is that you don't lose endurance that fast as you get older. I mean, you're able to just do these long. There's a lot of people I've seen on the trails, and I'm sure you saw them in the bike rides, that are up there in years. They're past their 50s, and yet they're pumping out and doing these long hikes or trails. Or I just met this woman for Thanksgiving. She was doing a paddling on the Yukon River for like 800 miles or something ridiculous and distant. Maybe it was 400 miles, but it's a long trip. And but it's also like an endurance thing. She took like, I think it's 3 or 4 days to do it. So in other words, they're sleep deprived and they're just like pushing it. But she's like a cancer patient. She has lost all her hair. She went through chemotherapy, and she's got to be in her 50s.
50s.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she's just, but there she was doing this kick-ass thing on the Yukon River. Amazing paddling on, one of those paddle boards when you're standing up with the paddle board.
Oh, really? Standing up. Wow.
Yeah, standing up.
Yeah, we've got the endurance.
She did it in the British Columbia. Yeah, but you have it in.
Oh, man. Yeah, I met a guy who was 82, and he was trying to be the oldest guy to hike the Appalachian Trail.
So your 100 things that you own, Sim, have you actually done an accounting of it, or are you just ballparking?
I'm ballparking it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What are your 5 most valuable things that you can think of? You got a bicycle, that's got to be one of them. Or your value. You have your computer, you have a phone.
Yeah. I got a cell phone. That's so important. A Surface computer. I actually have a Kindle, which I probably don't need, but I just love the size of it.
Well, it feeds your brain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a Kindle does. It's brain food.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And it encourages you to read.
Yeah.
And that's something in today's society where there's YouTube everywhere that we don't do, and I think that any incentive, it's kind of like I see a Kindle like a gym membership. In other words, you're like, fuck, I'm paying, $50 a month or $100 a month. I got to use the gym because I'm paying this monthly fee. I mean, Kindle's not a subscription, but it's an investment. You have to pay $100. And so therefore you got to start using it. Otherwise you just wasted $100 on nothing. It could be a $200 or $300 model. But the point is that a Kindle kind of encourages you to read, and it makes it such a pleasant experience to read. And it doesn't have to be a Kindle; it could be any ebook reader. But anything that has that e-ink, it makes a big difference.
Exactly, and the big thing too is you're not carrying the paper and you're not carrying the books, so you can travel anywhere. And I'm on the trail and I can read off my cell phone if I want to. The other huge thing is getting Audible. I listen to a lot of books. I love books, and then also podcasts, especially yours, but others. So I'll download them all. And
what are your top 5 favorite podcasts? That I know you like Rich Roll.
Yeah, Rich Roll is awesome. I like the Minimalists. I listen to a lot of NPR, the global podcast. Alex Baldwin.
And where do you listen to this while you're on a bike ride or hiking or doing the dishes or?
Yeah, usually hiking. I mean, you've got 12 hours hiking, and so it's.
How do you recharge your stuff?
I have 4 batteries that I take with me. They're 1,500 milliamp hours. Yeah, so they last probably a day and a half each one, and then I just recharge those as I go along. But and so I've gone through a lot of books and a lot of podcasts.
You don't believe in solar chargers?
No.
Why not?
They don't seem to. I'm not in any one place at one time, and they're extra weight. And
well, they're not extra weight if you got rid of one of your 3 batteries.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think what it comes down to is that you're going to get to an electricity outlet in every 4 or 5 days.
Exactly.
And that the 3 batteries that you have are going to get you through those 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And usually, I mean, if we're hiking through a lot of shade and like on the Appalachian Trail and places, some of the Continental Divide Trail, and you may not get the sun you need. So it's...
Any of these adventures, I mean, you've done so many adventures, any of them that you kind of would tell somebody, don't do this?
No. They're all good. No. Even the one we did in Lesotho, where we're with the wind going against us and we're struggling against.
I totally forgot about this. I mean, like shit, I can't keep up with your adventures. I can't even remember our adventures together. So I mean, you're right. I forgot about that. I keep thinking about Madagascar because that was the last thing you and I did. But before that, you and I did the Drakensberg Traverse, which goes across the southern part of it's on near the border of South Africa and Lesotho, and it's a spectacular mountain range that is, I can't remember how many kilometers it was. Do you have any idea how long it took? Or was it like, we did the whole thing, right?
We did.
So it was, I want to say like 300 something kilometers or something, but I could be wrong. But it took over a week.
Yeah,
I think it took about over a week, maybe
8 or 9 days. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it was so beautiful.
It was
the
a spectacular
fog coming up over the cliffs, and I mean, it was like being on the edge of the world.
Right. So, but tell us a little bit about that experience when we were, I wouldn't say we were endangered like life or death, but definitely we would have been seriously fucked and maybe died if we had spent there overnight.
Yeah. The wind was coming up. We were hiking with Margot from Moldavia, and she was a
Moldova.
Moldova, sorry.
Yeah.
And she was a kick. But
But at that point, she had already left.
I think she already left.
She was not. I mean, thank God she wasn't with us at that point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she was not. Her knee had kind of worn out. We were all by ourselves, just you and me.
Yeah. And the wind was coming in, and we had our umbrellas out, and we were just struggling against the wind, trying to get behind some rocks.
But it wasn't just wind, dude. It was like fog and rain and shit.
And cold. Yeah.
I mean, and it was vicious wind.
Yeah.
It was like ball busting wind. Yeah. I mean, so just to put it in perspective, we were, it was windy and raining so much and at such a high velocity, and we were kind of shivering. We didn't have that much rain gear and kind of warm clothes. We were depending more on our ability to just keep moving to keep us warm, and then we would camp, of course. And that's always been a good thru-hiking strategy, but we were paying the price big time on that particular, and the sun was setting.
Yeah.
And so we only had about an hour of daylight left. And so the temperature was starting to drop. There was no daylight, of course, at that point. And we're coming up, and because the wind was so vicious, I wasn't even motivated to like look at my GPS because it was going to take too much time to pull it out, take off my gloves and all this other crap. So I was just like, you know what? This looks like a nice trail. We just keep walking this way, And it wasn't a well-marked trail at all. I mean, it's just kind of like, it's like a wilderness there. And we just kept walking. And we're walking with the wind to our back. It was really nice because so it's kind of like, you have the backpack protects your back, so it was cold and windy, but the wind is to your back, so you don't really feel it.
Yeah, wasn't too.
And so kind of like when the wind is on your back, you don't really feel like going any other way than just keep going the way you're going.
Yeah.
And it was kind of flat the way we were going, and then suddenly, because the clouds weren't the fog ruined our visibility, we come to a fucking cliff.
Yeah, that's right. We couldn't go any farther. And it looked great. Yeah.
We're fucking cliffed out. It's just this cliff that just drops like 1,000 meters.
Yeah. And you said, look, it goes right across on the GPS beforehand, but it would drop 1,000 feet. And
then goes right across.
Yeah. I go out, and Francis says, "Oh, I think we'll go down." I said, "Nope, no way."
Did I really suggest that we go down?
Yeah, at first, and then you kind of go, "Oh no, I think maybe we better go around."
Yeah, so, I probably looked at like there's something, but then I don't even know if it was that what the hell I was thinking. But all I just knew that we were royally fucked at that point.
Yeah. We found a shepherd's hut. Do you remember that?
No, but that was after. Hold on.
Another. Okay,
right, that was after. Okay. So then what happened was, we then said, shit, we are obviously the wrong way. We're kind of in a dead end here. We have to go back the way we came.
Yeah.
And then that's when it was brutal because we would have to walk into the wind.
Yeah.
And that's another experience. When you've got the wind in your back going viciously hard, it's pushing you along. It's easy to walk when the wind is pushing you from behind. But you got to face that fucking wind. Fuck. That was hard.
We were like 45-degree angles.
Yeah, we were just kind of leaning into the whole thing. But before we did that, we kind of like regrouped by a rock. There was a big rock, about a 3-meter high rock that provided a nice wind barrier.
Yeah.
And we kind of huddled there. You and I just kind of like trying to gain our senses and say, what the fuck do we do now?
Yeah.
Should we go this way, this way, pull out the GPS, figure out where we're going? Where did we go wrong? And we regrouped there, and we were somehow foolishly, at least I was thinking, maybe if we wait here for about 20 minutes, this wind will die down.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, didn't you think that maybe this was just a fluke?
Yeah, yeah.
But then it became apparent that this probably is always there at that particular place because of the geography, because of the cliff attracts like a wind tunnel of some sort. So then I realized, we could be here probably for 3 weeks and the wind wouldn't fucking change.
And with hypothermia.
Of course, right. And no food.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Whether we stay here for 3 more minutes or 3 more weeks, it's probably going to be the same bullshit. So we got to like man up and get the fuck out of Dodge. And that was when we just took a deep, deep breath and we said, we almost ran. I mean, to stay warm because we were so shivering and freezing and our feet were numb. Everything was numb and we were wet.
Yeah.
Because, the umbrellas were basically useless. Because they couldn't go against the wind. So we just toughed it out. And we just ran as fast as we can. And finally, after about 30 minutes, I think, of just nonstop pushing, we finally got to the wind calmed down a bit because we got it far enough away from the cliff. And then eventually, like you said, about a half an hour after that, maybe about an hour of walking, we found a shepherd's hut.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was still daylight left. And we thought, well, we should push it because we got another half hour to an hour of daylight. But we were so mentally exhausted from that experience that we're like, you know what?
That was a memorable experience.
Yeah. Let's just go back and let's just camp in this because it was nice. It was a hut made out of stone.
Yeah.
So it blocked all the wind. It was going to be a fucking cold night. It was it was near freezing. And again, it's not like we had a ton of warm clothes. And so we were like, let's just camp out here. And that was a nice camping spot. Although it was irregular. We didn't have like a totally flat surface, but hey, we're not picky.
We survived. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, the shepherds were really interesting. I remember we were camping out one time, and the shepherds were yelling, "Give us your money or give us your guns, white man." And I understand, like a week later, there were a couple hikers that were macheted, and almost died. It was a little dangerous.
That is, it is. I've heard several stories in Lesotho where people have been mugged for their stuff. It's a pity. It's a real pity because they could use the tourism and that kind of event discourages it. But it's not that common.
Yeah. But we had a nice conversation with one of the shepherds. He was asking us about our personal wealth. And he says, "Well, do you have any chickens?" And we said, "No." "Do you have any sheep?" "No."
How about any pig?
Any pig? And he said, "No." And he says,
"You don't have a fucking pig."
You guys are sure poor. And I go, "Yeah, I guess we are."
You guys suck. You don't even have a goddamn pig. He was not impressed. I was like, "What about this wind resistant jacket I got?" Not impressed. He's like, "I got a wool jacket. It just does me fine." Yeah, no, it was amazing. Okay, so another thing that you've really studied a lot by the way, tell us about your year in Central and South America.
Oh, yeah. Hitchhiked down it was 1974, and I was like 21, 22, and just spent 5 months in Central Mexico, in Central America, and then 7 months in South America, and just followed the Highway 1 all the way down and hit Belize and the ruins and met a lot of neat people. It was kind of part of the hippie trail, and it was fun.
Did you ever have long hair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you get rid of it? After you got married?
It kind of got shorter and shorter, and finally I got into the corporate climate, and I was just.
But you're 66 years old, and you have way more hair than I do right now.
I'll be cutting it when I go. I'm going down to South America. Actually, I'm leaving in a week, and heading down to South America for 3 months.
And you've also done, now just that people don't have a wrong, or not the wrong impression, but you misconceive. You've also done cruises. I mean, cruise ships. It's not like you're always roughing out there in the mud of Madagascar and the winds of the Drakensbergs in South Africa. You've also done some nice cruise ships and gone to Europe.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I are hot on the Garrison Keillor. In the last 6 years, he does a show called Prairie Home Companion on NPR. It's been discontinued recently, but he's starting up again. But we did the cruise around Italy and then Norway, and we just did Norway and Scotland and Alaska. Actually, that was last year, in the Baltic. And hopefully he's planning one for Cuba. If you're kind of Midwestern and you like old time radio, which I love, then
what is old time radio? Give me like some songs or something.
Well, it's kind of like the Grand Ole Opry is now, and that's kind of what it was based on. But a lot of the radio shows from the 40s and 50s, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby and Jack Benny.
And you also like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. You're like a Shakespeare nuthead.
Yeah. We go up, Patty and I, my girlfriend, we go up to Ashland every year for the last 7 years and just see Shakespeare. And this last, about a month ago, I was up at Stratford near Toronto and just saw all the plays there.
Now, what attracts you? I mean, it may be a stupid question, but what attracts you about Shakespeare?
Great stories. It's a big cultural reference, wonderful acting that I've seen. And I just like to see him go different ways, how the directors interpret it and then how the actors portray it. Just to me, so interesting.
How do you pick your cruises that you've gone on? What advice would you give people? Like, look for this, look for that, the type of deals you get. What's your logic when you think about, I want to go on a cruise? How do you... What advice would you give people listening to this?
We pretty much just do Garrison Keillor, but we do Holland America, and it's the smaller ones, 1,400 people. Some of the larger ones have 7,000 Princess, but we like the smaller ones, and it's really been just...
Would you say that's medium? Because I mean, smaller, 1,000, 1,400 people sounds like a lot still.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not that a lot.
For a cruise ship, I think it's pretty small.
Okay.
Yeah, and the entertainment there is just fabulous.
What's the demographics?
Usually about over 50.
Okay, and it's mainly couples?
60. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, single people go, and yeah, my mom took my siblings and I and my girlfriend. And
so you specialize in this one particular, what's it called again?
Garrison Keillor is Prairie Home Companion, and they've kind of discontinued it because of the Me Too things. So,
what?
Yeah.
Explain.
I think he was a little forward with one of the stars. I don't know the story, but
so somebody who's listening to this can't take this cruise anymore?
He's offered. They put out a survey to go to Cuba in 2020. So hopefully we'll be.
And this is the only cruise you've ever gone on. This kind of.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
You've never done like a, what is it, Norwegian cruise or Princess cruise or any of this shit?
I did a Soviet cruise back in 1977 from Perth to Singapore on a Russian cruise ship, but that's it.
Wow, how was that?
Oh, it was fabulous.
Why?
Yeah.
What year was this?
This is in 1977.
So during the Soviet time.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
So you're a fucking commie.
Yeah. I was.
You traitor.
I tried to hit on one of the stewardess, and she was saying, "Wait, now what do you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, I'm just traveling." And she says, "What? You're not working for the state and contributed to the fatherland?" I said, "No." Just, oh my God! So I didn't make any headway
didn't score with her.
No, darn.
Commie.
I did play chess with the captain and with 14 other people.
And he kicked your ass.
He kicked my ass.
Of course he did.
Totally.
Russians rule in chess.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to a different subject, kind of away from travel, but more something that you know a lot about, which is longevity. So your mom died at what age? She just died in May of 2018.
Yeah, she died. She was 93.
Wow. And your father died at?
Like 81.
And you were a fat fuck yourself.
I was. Yeah. I was like 70 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And yeah. And when I saw the light, then I lost 70 pounds.
And what made you see the light? Did you get like your sim, your terminal, or your nothing like that? Did you just wake up one day? How did you like see the light? What was the inflection point?
Yeah, a couple of things. I got some chronic diseases. I had precancerous of the esophagus, Barrett syndrome, and I had sleep apnea, and I had my knees were bothering me.
And you were in your early 50s?
Yeah.
At this point?
Right. Yeah, just about 50. Mm-hmm. And my son was hitting, teenage years, and he was outpacing me, and I wanted to keep up with him and do things with him. And, and I knew I wanted to live a long time, and I wanted to be healthy doing that.
Do you have a daughter too? Tell us about her a little bit.
Yeah, she's great. She's in.
What's her name again?
Corby.
Okay.
Corby K. And she graduated from the University of Oregon, and then went down to Hollywood. She wanted to become a movie star, or she actually wanted to write, and so she did that for a while, and she did a lot of modeling, and then she, it's hard to get in there. So then she became a Pilates instructor, and now she got a full-time position in Beverly Hills doing Pilates.
That's very sweet. Okay, so then you looked at your son, couldn't keep up with him, and you're like, you know what? If I keep going down this path, I might keel over by the age of 60.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was your wake-up call.
It was. Yeah.
And so, and how did you? What have you learned since your early 50s, into now you're 66? So the last, let's say, 15 years or so, what have you learned? Because you've studied and read a fuck ton of books. Really. I mean, you're like Mr. Longevity guy. If you want to know about centenarians, their habits, all this shit, blue zones, up the wazoo. I go to Sim, you're my man when it comes to knowing about all this kind of research and studies. So try to sum it up in 2 words. No, I'm just kidding. Sum up kind of what are some of the key takeaways that you've had after all the research and studies that you've done, and also what worked for you anecdotally for your own body.
Yeah, I call it vitamin L lifestyle. And the key thing for me, first one is nutrition. And I go plant-based, pretty much vegan, and try and get organic and just try and eat really healthy. Lots of vegetables, some fruit. No, I don't do bread, or I try to avoid rice, some potatoes. But mainly plant-based. And then I try to exercise. Mainly I'm doing a lot of hiking and walking, but I'll hit the gym and try and do a lot of weights. I haven't...
What's a lot of weights? What does that mean?
Not too much. It's probably like 25, 30 pounds.
Okay, no, but as far as how many minutes of weightlifting do you do?
It's probably about 30 minutes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
How often? How many? 3 times a week?
Hopefully 3 times a week. I haven't much recently, so I've been traveling a lot. It's hard to do when you travel.
Well, I mean, but what do you do when you travel? I mean, do you try to do push-ups, sit-ups, or yoga or something, or you just don't do anything?
Probably more hiking, but once. But
as far as weightlifting, you just cut it out while you're on the road.
Yeah, unless I can get into a gym, and I did that in Toronto.
Because why don't you do push-ups or sit-ups or anything?
I do push-ups.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because to me that's kind of like a substitute for weightlifting if you don't have weights. You could do dips.
Yeah, exactly. And squats are really good.
Yeah. I mean, especially as you're in your 60s, I mean, just doing a squat without any weight is challenging enough.
Yeah.
Right? So you do weight resistance, if you will, without the weights when you're traveling, right?
Yeah.
And you still do that, 2-3 days a week?
Yeah, that's ideal. Okay. I honestly, traveling, and I try to avoid sitting. I try to stand and walk as much as possible, but when you're on a bus for 5 days, I took the Greyhound from Maine at the end of AT over to Oregon to Ashland. 5 days on the Greyhound bus.
What year was that?
That was last year.
Wow. Okay, so there was a funny story that this woman who told me she did the Greyhound. She says, you guys are all looking for America's Most Wanted. They're all here.
Yeah, that's right. Toothless and
America's Most Wanted are right here on Greyhound.
Yeah, hitting the meth on the bus.
So, but is that kind of? I mean, is there? I imagine some truth to that, or did you feel super safe? I mean, how was it? I mean,
I felt safe. The people I thought were good, but they just didn't have much money. We came into one bus stop, and the bus driver says, "Oh, the McDonald's is giving a discount Yeah, well, he came in and he says, "Oh, okay, well, there's McDonald's and Wendy's, but for you rich people, there's Popeyes." And then he said, "Okay, now they're giving a discount for if we buy people some food. You know, how many people in here don't have enough money for lunch?" And half the people stood up, and so the bus driver came through and asked for donations to pay for them. Wow. And so everybody chipped in, and they all got some Popeyes.
That's pretty impressive. Now, I would just get this idea that it's not economical to take a bus across America if your goal is simply to save money, because when you add up the food costs and, you know, the actual, because I imagine the ticket costs at least $200.
It was $150.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's right. You ride senior citizen.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
That's true.
Yeah. So senior citizen, it makes you save a bunch, because there's no such thing as senior citizens for airlines, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So for Amtrak and for buses, you get a senior discount.
Yeah. Yeah. The key thing, the reason I took Greyhound is I was in Millinocket. Yeah. And so to go from there to an airport and then fly to airport and then go over to Ashland where we were seeing plays, it's, you know, this connections, it's just easier just to take Greyhound across and go right there. And it's an adventure. It's fun.
I would say it's an adventure more than, I mean, it's not like you're still going to be, even if you're connecting and doing all this airline bullshit, you're still going to do it in like a day or two max. Yeah. And there's no way you're going to get across the nation on Greyhound in 2 days.
You have to have time, and I'm retired, so
right. I understand. No, I understand. But you would recommend Greyhound? I mean, you're good with it?
Yeah, it was okay. Would
you do it again?
Yeah. Okay. I've been doing Flixbus, and I did that a lot in Europe.
Yeah, Flix is great.
Yeah.
Flix
BUS. Yeah, and if you do it ahead of time, it was like $4.
It's really cheap.
Yeah, San Diego to LA. And
yeah. No, it's definitely a great deal. And they have Wi-Fi on board. Does Greyhound have Wi-Fi? Sometimes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they do. It's not very good, but and Amtrak sometimes they do.
Yeah,
you know,
same thing. I discovered that too. I took.
I
took from Chicago all the way to Portland, and there was no. In fact, from Washington D.C. to Chicago, there was no Wi-Fi. From basically. Their way of thinking is that if they can't provide a really good, stable service, they're just not going to provide it at all.
Right.
That's their philosophy.
Yeah,
so
you
if
did the Empire Builder.
Yeah, I did the Empire Building. Yeah, and so I don't really agree with that. But then again, I spent 5 years in Africa, where intermittent internet was the norm. You know, I just got used to like internet on, internet off, internet on, internet off.
Except for Madagascar. They had awesome internet, and it was so cheap. Yeah. And I'd bring my stick over and rejoice. His eyes would light up. Wi-Fi. Oh, boy, and I'd flip that
Wi-Fi, as we said.
Wi-Fi, yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah, that was like, you spent $70 and you got like, I don't know, 50 gigabytes or something like that.
It was huge.
Yeah,
it was huge.
Crazy.
But you're right. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about longevity. You know, my goal is to live to be 150, and
wait a second, because you're planning on some sort of, because nobody's lived more than 122.
Yeah,
right?
I want to do that, but then I want to.
You want to do Ray Kurzweil?
I want to get shot by a jealous husband. That's my goal.
Yes, that's right.
No, that's
the good way to die. Shot by a jealous husband.
But the other thing I did is I bought a longevity annuity.
No, but hold on, we'll get into that. But but the. You're joking around when you say 150. I mean,
I'm
150. Okay, no, but what would be an age that you would feel fair, like, okay, I got my good life?
You know, the key thing is health. You know, you could live a crappy life at 50 or at 20, you know, and the key thing is health. If you're not healthy, you're not happy. So
so you're saying as soon as you start getting unhealthy or any kind of chronic disease, like if all of a sudden you start getting some sort of cancer or any kind of thing like that really debilitated you, diabetes, then all of a sudden you say, okay, fine, fuck it, I'm going to die now?
I don't know. I think I'd probably want to keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So when do you want to die, Sim?
150.
150. Okay, but 150 is not realistic. The longest woman was that French woman who lived to 122
I guess the thing is as long as possible, and to be healthy and active as long as possible. That's my goal.
Okay, so being a vegetable is not going to do it for you.
No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
If you have your brain, like Stephen Hawking, if you were like a Stephen Hawking?
I'd keep going.
Okay, so even if you're on a wheelchair, kind of like you can move in your left cheek?
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
He got a lot of girls, even though he couldn't. Like,
did he really? Awesome.
Dude, you never saw his story?
No.
That guy like got the chicks.
Is that right? That's my goal, my mentor.
Getting you die by a jealous husband. There you go. But yeah, Stephen Hawking. He had he's a funny story. So he got well, in the movie, I know his biography too, but in the movie they pick his wife as a really beautiful woman. I don't know the actress's name. What's the name of the movie? It's The Theory of Everything, I think it's called.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and then, but this is a true part of the story, is that he eventually falls in love with, and I think even marries, his nurse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there he was, like married to this woman. He fathered 3 children with her. Wow. I think 2 or 3. I mean, he was already in a wheelchair and stuff like that. He could barely move, but somehow that organ of his was still working to produce those 3 children. And then the little bastard like gets it on with his nurse. And like,
oh no.
Yeah. And he starts banging his nurse somehow, and he's with her. And then he eventually divorces his wife, who's been with him since his 20s, since he was a PhD student.
Oh my gosh.
He dumps her to go with his nurse. I mean, it's amazing. It's just like, it really shows you how low us males can go. We are fucking dogs. We're like, here's this woman who's devoted to you, give you 3 children, is just like faithful and just wonderful. And then all of a sudden, you dump her for your nurse.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
To bang your nurse. It's just like amazing. And then eventually, by the way, he broke up with his nurse as well. There's some speculation that his nurse was becoming abusive to him and that kind of stuff. But I don't know how true that is. So, but the point is that, and then after that, I don't know what his love life became. But it's just funny that
another movie you recommended that it's on my list, on my keep.
Oh, which one?
This one. Yeah.
I told you that already.
Everything. No, you just did. So
okay.
I see that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you
good.
gotta add that to your list. Yeah. So. We got on to longevity. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. Sleep is really important. Social interaction.
How much sleep is enough sleep?
I think it depends on your own thing. I try to follow circadian. So, when the sun goes down, when I'm hiking, I go to sleep. And when
Yeah, but what about in the winter? Like if you're in the northern hemisphere, especially if you're up in Seattle or something like that, you're going to be sleeping like 16 hours a day.
Yeah, I try to sleep more. I love sleep. Okay. I do a lot of meditation. So if I'm not sleeping, then I meditate. And then
what kind of meditation do you do?
It's more like Vipassana, and I just focus on my breath. And then I do a body scan and focus on my body and just try to, if thoughts come up, then I just let them go. And that's
when do you do this?
A lot of times when I can't sleep.
Okay.
Then I'll do that.
But you don't have insomnia.
No, I don't. I don't. I get up. Sometimes I get up at like 2 a.m. and I'm up for maybe an hour, and then I meditate, and then I go back.
Do you meditate on you're prone? I mean, you're flat on your back, or do you actually get up and start get into some sort of Hindu position?
It varies. But a lot of times I'm just laying down. And meditating.
Yeah, because I never really understood what's the big fucking deal about people having to get in some funny pose. Why can't you just meditate lying down on your back? Is it something wrong with that?
I think you feel a discomfort and you focus on that with your meditation.
What do you mean discomfort? Lying down?
Well, with your sitting cross-legged and sitting straight up. I mean, if you're doing that, then you have discomfort. And you focus on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Why do so many meditation people say that you got to get into this funny lotus position or whatever?
I think it's probably you do better meditation. I'm kind of lazy and kind of...
Better meditation?
I think so, yeah.
But you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're focusing and your back starts to hurt or whatever. Your knees start to hurt because they're all cross-legged.
Well, I think becoming more self-aware and you feel your body, and then you focus on that pain, and then the pain slowly disappears. I mean, it's like any pain. If you focus on it, then it pretty much goes. I mean, your body gets used to it. And so I think that's the same thing with sitting cross-legged, and you adjust to it, and you realize you can adjust to things. But I get too lazy.
So you just do it lying down flat?
Most of the time. Sometimes I'll sit up.
Okay, so take me through this. So I'm sitting there lying down or any kind of position, and I just got to try to think about nothing.
Yeah, I usually scan my body first.
What does that mean?
That means focus on. I mean, I start with my toes and I work my way up. Usually it goes to my gut because that's where I feel my emotions.
What do you mean it goes to your gut? What goes?
when I scan, I go, okay, how am I feeling? What are my feelings? And a lot of times it'll be in my gut, and I'll go, okay, where is this coming from? But I shouldn't be thinking that. If I think that, then I go, okay, I'm thinking. I don't want to think. So I just focus on that sensation, and pretty much that goes, and then something else may come up where I'll feel something in my body. So it's mainly focusing on becoming more self-aware of my reactions or my feelings in myself. I'm not very progressed, as you probably tell in my meditations, but that's pretty much it's focusing on my breathing and then sensations in my body.
Well, a lot of people are big into meditation. I mean, a lot of performers. Yeah, you listen to Tim Ferriss' podcast too. I mean, he's observed that a lot of peak performers are big onto meditation. I just never gotten into it myself. Although he does say something like peak performers do meditation-like things. In other words, for example, Tony Robbins does not meditate, but he does have some sort of mantra. He has a ritual that he goes through, a mental ritual, to get himself all pumped up and motivated. He takes his cold shower. He does these kind of pumping exercises and all sorts of stuff. So,
yeah, that's. I think hiking is a meditation.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the mindful meditation where you're really aware. Your brain's not going off to any place. You're focused on the woods and the trail and your sensations and
it's harder to do it nowadays when people carry. I mean, I love podcasts. I like to listen to podcasts all the time. But I remember when I did my through hikes, all my through hikes, and a little bit on the Continental Divide Trail, I had sometimes audio books with me. But for the most part, I didn't have anything because I didn't have the technology back then. This was 2007 when I did my last big through hike. And there's some pity to that, in some ways, that to go there without any kind of audio device and you just have to listen to the fucking birds.
Yeah. The first day or so, I usually do it without any audio or anything. But then after a couple of days, then it's like, okay, been there, done that. This is
I want to feed my mind.
Yeah, feed my mind. So then I'll listen to Audible or podcasts.
Tell us about blue zones.
There's different zones that I guess a reporter for National Geographic went and investigated 7 different zones in the world where people live longer and have better lifestyles and live longer and are healthier. And I think Loma Linda and Okinawa and Sardinia and Costa Rica, there's certain places. And so the uptake that I got, and a lot of studies show this, although it's not definitive and it's not proof, but generally a plant-based, I think Mediterranean diet, exercise, social interaction, being in a society where people respect older people, and there's a lot of support, people live longer. So it kind of indicates it's not really that much genetics. Some people say, it's 30%, 20% genetics, and the rest is environmental as far as how long you'll live.
Is that what you believe?
I think so. Yeah.
You don't think it's 50-50?
No. Okay. No, I think it's more, 20, 30. But who knows? And it's probably different for different people. So I'm just trying to do everything I can do, environmentally to extend it. It's probability. I could die tomorrow, but at least my probabilities are higher if I try to live a healthy lifestyle.
Okay, and you eat like chia seeds and this kind of stuff?
Yeah. When I hike, I pretty much just do nuts and seeds and chia, goji berries, chia seeds, and cacao nibs and seaweed or dulse.
No cooked food?
No cooked food. I don't carry a stove.
What do you think of the raw diet?
I think studies have shown that a lot of cooking for things like broccoli, it's healthier if you eat it cooked. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
So
There's a
and
number-
plus broccoli makes you fart if you eat it raw.
That's right. Helps you along the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I'm not a big. I mean,
Or you're not a raw foodist.
no.
But you eat a lot of raw food when you're hiking. I mean,
Yeah.
at least as far as nuts and shit like that. Obviously, you don't cook nuts, but
Yeah. I try and get sprouted seeds and sprouted nuts. Yeah, and a good mixture. And so you saw me when we did the Drakensberg. I just had a big bag of nuts and seeds, and it lasted the whole time. I don't eat that much, at least to begin with. So
yeah, I was actually noticing that you really don't have a huge calorie intake compared to me. I mean, I eat like twice as much food as you do, I think.
yeah, probably.
And you're bigger and taller than me. I mean, you're like
Yeah.
how much? You're 6 foot.
5'12".
Okay.
But I've got a lot of fat, so that I get to burn that off.
Right. Yeah. No, but you don't have a lot of fat. How much do you weigh?
I think it's 165.
Yeah. So somebody who's 6 foot tall, I mean, 165 is
Yeah,
pretty reasonable.
not
Your
too bad.
BMI sounds like it's probably 24.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, 22, 24.
Well, I was
yeah.
230 before, so.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. And so as far as, so your advice as far as longevity, it's pretty much the standard thing that we know, everybody knows that, eat more vegetables. Some people believe that eating fruit is bad because of fructose or whatever sugar that's in fruit. Do you believe that, or what's your assessment on that score?
I think the nice thing about fruit is it includes fiber. And if you just eat pure sugar, it sends your insulin levels up and your body reacts to that. But if you eat the fruit, the whole fruit, then that includes fiber and that levels things off. So I think that sugar is and it's got so many vitamins and minerals. I mean, it's, there's a good argument not to eat too much fruit, but I like fruit, and I think it's healthy, especially if you eat the whole fruit. I don't drink juice, so
What do you drink? Do you drink tea?
Yeah, I might have chamomile tea, but I don't.
Green tea?
Green
tea is supposed to be good for you, I heard.
Yeah, I don't usually do caffeine, but if I have to, I'll do green tea.
Did you ever do coffee, like when you're an unhealthy guy?
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 cups a day.
Wow. So how was that hard getting over that? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got a headache, and then
How long did you have a headache for?
It was maybe a week.
Okay, not that bad.
Yeah, no, it was good.
You just got to tough it out.
Yeah, and it makes it nice when you go backpacking. You don't have to cook up a cup of hot. Yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't send you up, and you have to have more coffee, and to keep that caffeine high going.
Right. Yeah. No, I've always avoided caffeine all my life. I've avoided alcohol, but I feel bad about avoiding alcohol because I know that red wine is supposed to be good for you, and you have this resveratrol and shit like that. What do you think about that?
Well, they just did a recent study, and you can get the same resveratrol in grape juice, and they were saying that.
But grape juice has sugar, dude.
Yeah, but you have the skin, so that adds the fiber. I'm sorry, you're right. Grape juice, you're right, is just sugar. Yeah, that's not good.
So what? So you're saying
but it's
just
better than
raw
the wine.
grape is good for resveratrol?
Yeah, raw grapes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. The other thing,
Not grape juice.
yeah, no, not grape juice. There was a recent study that showed that alcohol, or wine in regards, is good for your heart, but it's bad for cancer. So the latest recommendation is not to drink alcohol. I'm sure a little bit, in moderation, probably isn't going to kill you, but overall, it's more of a health issue than a benefit. With cancer due to alcohol. That was just a recent study.
Right. And so you're a big believer that these kind of healthy habits can allow you to avoid these chronic diseases.
Yes. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that doesn't guarantee.
Exactly.
I mean, you still can get cancer at the age of 95.
Yeah. It's a spectrum, and all you're doing is increasing your chances or decreasing your chances you'll get a chronic disease. But nothing's 100%. Yeah.
I mean, is there any good way of dying? I mean, your friends are already dying on you right now, right? I mean,
Right.
you have friends who've died on you, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and your mother just died.
Yeah.
What did she die of?
She had 3 strokes and a heart attack, and
Did each stroke kind of like knock her down a pedestal?
Yeah, the last ones, she was pretty much comatose. She could
Like a vegetable kind of thing?
Pretty much. She could squeeze our hand.
She was conscious?
She was conscious. She could respond. I'd rub her feet or rub her hair, and she would respond. Do you like this? Oh yeah. She'd squeeze our hand.
So kind of like Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking was kind of conscious.
Yeah.
But she hadn't gone senile. She kept her memory. Well, it's hard to tell because
we couldn't tell. But she didn't look like she was in pain, and we had home hospice, and I have 4 siblings, and we all came together, just so admirable. And we were with her. She, they withheld. She couldn't get a feeding tube in her stomach, and they didn't want to do.
Why not?
It was closed. Her
Esophagus?
She didn't have a feeding reflex. Yeah, something with her esophagus. They couldn't go through there, so they were thinking of doing a feeding tube from the outside, but it's kind of like it's one of those hard decisions where you go,
Did she have any kind of paperwork saying turn off the thing? She had done
do
that?
not resuscitate.
She did have that.
Yeah, she did.
So she had the presence of mind of doing that. A lot of people don't have that.
No, and we had.
Do you have that?
No.
You fuckhead.
I know.
You fucking hypocrite.
I need to do that. Yeah, she was a good.
No, because seriously, Sim, what happens if you get into a car accident? You just have a fucking stroke out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you become a fucking vegetable, and then Tim, your son, is looking at you, and Dad, what do? I don't know, and you're like, you can't even express yourself.
As long as I'm alive and my pension and annuities coming in, then he should be happy. We're making more money, and I have good health insurance. So
you'll just wait for the singularity.
That's right. Into the black hole.
No, but the singularity is this whole idea that human beings will transcend biology and go transhuman, and you just have to live long enough for technology to be able to download your brain, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So would you like to live 1 billion years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about 2 billion?
Yeah.
10 billion?
Yeah.
100 billion.
Kurzweil, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it'd be interesting to live 100 billion years.
Yeah.
And, some people say 100 billion years, that's so long. And then these fucking people are trying so hard to get into heaven where they're supposedly going to live forever. But they don't want to live 100 billion years. I'm like, wait a second, you're some good Christian who wants to live forever, and you don't want to live 100 billion years? 100 billion years is nothing compared to forever.
That's right.
So you better get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, infinity is a long time, especially as you get towards the end.
Exactly. So speaking about the end and this annuities that you kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
You're not a salesman. Neither of us have any kind of stake in annuities.
Yeah.
But you have this kind of an interesting take on annuities that I think is fascinating, and people should listen up to that. So go ahead and share a little bit about your thought process, and how old were you when you got into annuities, and what did you do, and what was your logic?
Yeah, I was probably about 55 after my divorce, and I had some money to invest, and you could.
How much money approximately?
It's just 150,000.
Okay.
And so I wanted to put it into, you're thinking, well, I could put it in the stock market, or I could buy bonds, or I could buy treasuries. And the thing I wanted to do is to have money coming in for the rest of my life, no matter how long I lived, to make sure it was, that it would last. And, Social Security is great because that lasts forever, until you die. And my pension lasts until I die, although it doesn't increase for inflation. So I wanted kind of the same thing without the volatility of stocks and bonds. And so I got a longevity annuity. And Jane Austen in Sense and Sensibility, she says people with a longevity annuity, with an annuity, they last a long time. So I invested in that. It's with New York Life, Mutual. And
what's the name of the company? New York
Mutual. Yeah, it's one of the big ones. And I researched a bunch of them and looked at the ones that would last a long time. And so invested with them, and it gives. I start taking it when I'm 70, and then I get and it increases by 3% a year and forever. So if I hit singularity, I'm going to kick butt.
Yeah. You'll put New York Life out of business or whatever they're called. Not New York Life, New York.
New York Mutual, I think.
New York Mutual.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So
So
hold
the
on.
danger. I mean, the good thing is that it keeps coming, and you get a good. It's like 6%. Guaranteed. And when interest rates were like 3%, and if the stock market's crashing when you need the money, then that's a good thing.
Okay, so 6%, it increases every year.
6% return.
Right.
On my investment, but the amount I get each year after 70 will increase by 3% a year.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Okay, so
hopefully that covers inflation.
right
Now,
so if you had a hyperinflation, or not hyper, but even anything above 3%, then you're going to start to kind of struggle a little bit in theory.
Exactly, that's the danger, and the other danger is if New York Mutual goes out of business.
Right.
Then those are the dangers. But the nice thing is you don't have to worry about the stock market crashing, or
So basically,
volatility.
okay, so you took about 100 grand,
150. Yeah.
150, and you gave it to New York Life.
Yeah.
And then they've been sitting on that 150 or investing it presumably into treasuries or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's been appreciating, but you haven't seen a dime of that money so far.
Yeah.
And when you're 70,
Yeah. 4 more years.
4 more years, you're going to get a check every month.
Yeah. 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 It's about, I think it's about it's about 15,000 a year.
Okay.
So it's about what is that? 1,200?
Okay. So
1,300 a month.
okay, 1,300 a month
Yeah.
or so. Okay. So that's not, I mean, that's fine. That's plenty if you want to live in Costa Rica. Well, I mean, not plenty, but it's good enough. But it's tough to live in, let's say, San Francisco.
Right. But with my pension and with my
Right.
Social Security, and I'm waiting until I'm 70 to get Social Security.
Right. So you'll get a double whammy. You'll get another $1,000 maybe, or something like that.
It should be about 50,000 a year, or well, 40. Right now it's 43,000. If I
Okay.
wait till
That's
that'll-
assuming the apocalypse doesn't come.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all you baby boomers are going to be retiring, and you're going to fuck up the whole system.
Well,
and you're going
that's
to drain the
true.
money, and so you're
And
probably only going to get $1,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah, and the millennials will want to screw the boomers probably for good reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But here's what I found the most interesting. Annuities, fine. But what I thought was most interesting in your philosophy is that you're contrasting it with life insurance. Tell us about how life insurance works versus how an annuity works, and how people perceive you and value your life, Sim.
Yeah. Life insurance is betting you're going to die, and the annuity is betting you're going to live.
It's not betting. It's more like rewarding you for dying and rewarding you for living.
Yeah, it's betting.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and my kids are pretty much taken care of. That's where you'd get life insurance if you need,
If they were like 12 years old. Or,
yeah.
7 years old.
Or you wanted to leave them a big hunk of cash. And what I'd like to do is to be able to contribute to them. Right now, they don't seem to need it, but you never know. They may need it later. So I want to contribute while I'm alive, and also to worthy causes, like some people's Patreon, which is a good thing.
Patreon, yes, you are one of my earliest Patreons. And not to mention, you were the biggest Kickstarter backer I had, period, when I ran my Kickstarter a couple of years ago. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
You can give to causes. You can give to Wikipedia, for example. What are your favorite causes that you kind of like support? Is it more like environmental or?
Yeah, I'm giving to the Continental Trail Coalition, and I was giving to PCTA, and then my sister is a missionary in Taiwan, so I contribute to her church.
But wait a second, you also went to Washington, D.C. to volunteer to convert, to make us all vegan.
Yeah, I was going to get involved with the vegan activist thing, and so I went to a number of, I was living there for like 3 months, and I just got, I ended up going and seeing the museums and the monuments, and I went to a few conferences and stuff, but I realized I was not ready to commit myself to the cause quite yet.
Why not?
Just
because if you're like doing the mental calculation, like, okay, either A, I can be outside backpacking and going on a bicycle or going on a cruise, or B, I can sit in an office in Washington D.C. air conditioned with and trying to convince these fucking meat eaters to eat more plants.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, and I'm healthy right now, and I can hike, because I can, and I can bike, and I can, travel, and it may not be that case all the time. So maybe if I get incapacitated, then I can do more of a desk job later on. But yeah, right now I just don't feel. I feel committed to traveling and to hiking, and I don't feel that committed right now to the cause. But if Trump keeps doing the things he's doing, and if there's an opportunity for the vegan or for the backpacking, then I'd probably do that.
Do you think that we're going to become more of a vegan society?
I think we have to. I think with global warming, I think so much of the carbon dioxide is caused by raising animals and husbandry, and we can be so much more efficient by eating plant-based foods and even the clean meats.
Now, methane, I think, contributes, I believe, 17 or 19 times more greenhouse gases and has per pound or per ton compared to carbon dioxide. Mm-hmm. And so the car exhaust is not nearly as potent ton for ton compared to methane, which comes out of the asses and of these cows and belching and all that stuff that comes out of the cow. So, I mean, is there a way that we can kind of change that through maybe some fake meat?
Yeah, that clean meats is I think is going to be huge, especially I probably wouldn't eat it. I'd probably eat more plant-based, but
why not? What's wrong with clean meat? Or just because it's still you have the health issues?
If there's if they really do it right, they could make it really healthy. And
but that's hard, but then it probably wouldn't taste like real meat.
I don't know.
Come on, to make it taste like real meat, it's got to have all the appropriate saturated fat levels,
antibiotics, and the hormone.
I love that shit. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is that you have these clean meat. Just explain that it's basically lab grown meat.
Yeah, and it's the muscle and the muscle cells, and they grow. But
you got to add fat to it. You've got to you have to add a skeleton around it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a trivial process. We're not there yet.
No, but there's a ton of companies that are working on it because it's huge. Even the big food processors, Hormel and some of the other Foster Farms, they're a protein a provider, and so whether they grow it, actually, if they grow it on the farm versus growing it in the lab, they'd much rather grow it in the lab than they don't have to deal with all the byproducts and all the issues of all the waste that they feathers and bones and stuff that they do with live animals. From my perspective, it's the ethics that can be an issue too. All the suffering we have with factory farms. So hopefully they get a process down so that they can grow it in the lab that tastes good. They can put the fat on there, and also they have the right chemicals in there so they can make it really healthy. A lot of omega-3s and make it really healthy. But there's a lot of companies, especially the mainstream companies, that are investing a ton of bucks in it because it could be a big game changer.
So my buddies in Monsanto are doing something?
They are. Oh yeah,
sweet.
If they see money, they'll do it. And yeah.
So clean meat is a potential future, and you think also that we'll have to go to veganism more and more. What about crickets and just general insects? I love them. I got into insect eating and crickets in Africa because it's such a cheap source of protein, and it's really crunchy and tasty. Especially the way the Africans, especially those in Niger, in Nigeria and Chad, they spice it so well. They put the right kind of spices on top of them, so it's kind of like hot and spicy, a little salty. It's like better than a potato chip.
As good as popcorn?
Better than popcorn.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
but it's got that kind of it's got this really kind of crunchy. When you eating the exoskeleton, it sounds disgusting at first glance, but if you close your eyes and just put the fucking thing in your mouth, you're actually going to be impressed. I mean,
Yeah.
and then you're getting a lot of protein, and it's
Yeah.
so much cheaper
Uh-huh.
than raising a fucking chicken or a goat or anything like that. It's so much less impactful on the environment. You can grow like hordes of insects and crickets at a fraction of the water and a fraction of the land. And it could really transform. And yet you're getting all the protein you want. It's animal protein for those who care about that shit. But unfortunately, I don't see a big movement for that just yet.
Well, I'm not super strict as a vegan, and I call it veganish, but I'm happy to make exceptions for cultural exceptions.
Right.
So
if you ever go to Niger,
so I will be eating the crickets. Yes.
Yeah. No, it is. I hope more people get into it because
Yeah,
it will. I mean, I'm not big on killing animals myself. I'm kind of like you, not as strict, but I try to practice veganism as much as I can. I don't buy any dairy products. I don't buy eggs. I never buy meat. Rarely I'll buy fish. Sometimes I'll buy fish, but it's rare. But because I travel so much, and I go to people's houses, that kind of stuff, and I get invited to restaurants or meals and all that shit, in the end, I end up consuming quite a bit of animal protein.
Yeah.
But it's not where I spend my money usually. When I go to a restaurant, I order the vegetarian stuff. But when I'm in travel mode, that's when, like, I feel silly, like going to Japan and not having sushi. You don't have to have sushi every meal, but just try it once.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And when I feel sometimes I feel protein deficient, or even vitamin D.
Well, you mean animal protein deficient or just general protein?
Just general protein. When you travel, a lot of times you can't get that protein you need. So occasionally I'll get sardines, like when we were in Madagascar, and a lot of breakfast places, they may not have oatmeal, so I'll have omelet, veggie omelet or something like that with some eggs.
Right.
So I do make exceptions. I'm not. I used to be a vegan just for the health, the environment, and ethics, but now sometimes I do it just to annoy people.
So what's 2019 and 2020 looking like for Blanchard?
Well, I'll be going down to Brazil for 3 months, and then I'll be hopefully finish the.
Why Brazil?
I have relatives. I have a great-great-grandfather who came to North Dakota from Germany, and his brother went down to Brazil, southern Brazil. There's a lot of German colonies.
Did he work for the Führer?
That's right. Yeah. Some of my best friends.
German, ja, sehr gut, ja.
Well, yeah, and so I'm looking up.
I
as
swear I'm not
They may
escaping
be-
the Nazi regime, no.
They may be listening. So I found some of my German relatives, the Saresigs, in Germany and then in southern Brazil. So I'll be, and Argentina and Paraguay, Uruguay. So I'll be trying meet them up, but then also just enjoying the area. And then
Have you been to Brazil?
just to the border, to Iguazu.
Okay. Yeah.
So I hadn't been there, and I've always wanted to do that, and I knew I had relatives.
Iguazu is the big waterfall.
Yes, yeah, it's like on the border of Paraguay,
Argentina, no?
and Argentina and Brazil. It's
All three?
All three, yeah.
Okay.
They all kind of border them. Yeah, so I'll go down there, and then we're hopefully finish up the Continental Divide Trail, and then the Great Divide Trail that goes up into Canada, up to Banff and Jasper.
And maybe Burning Man for the first time in your
And
life?
Burning Man. Yeah, hopefully we meet up for Burning Man.
Yeah.
That'd be great. And then my girlfriend and I will be doing the Chesapeake, rent a van and go around the New England and Chesapeake.
Where do you rent the van?
Probably around Washington, D.C.
What service do you use?
Uh,
Website or something? Or just
yeah.
you don't have a preference? Or
Probably
you don't?
RV Share. I'll just find something on the internet, or probably you mentioned a couple of them that I'll be. What were they?
The ones I mentioned, there's several ride-sharing things. So there's Turo, Turo, and then the other one is getaround.com. Those are kind of competing services where you can just rent any kind of vehicle from a private citizen and then use it either for a day or a week. Minimum is a day. And then they kind of the same model that both of those companies have. And then for those who want like a more consistent ride share, you should consider Maven.com. They only do select metropolitan cities in the United States. And the other one besides Maven.com is called Zipcar. I think it's called Zipcar. It's been around for much longer than Maven. But the cool thing about those is I believe both of them work on a kind of a subscription model. You pay a certain fixed rate, and then you pay every time you use the car, and you can rent it by the hour also. And they have a parking lot where all their cars are. And I know with Maven, for example, they have a kind of a wide selection. They're not all sedans. So you can have, let's say, the pickup truck, you can have the van, you can have the teeny tiny little car, like the Mini Cooper kind of thing, and you can have a little sports car. So they have a kind of a wide spectrum of cars to pick. That's what Maven, I think, does. Zipcar, I don't know if they have that wide thing. And there's also another company, a friend of mine does. Maybe I should interview him one day. It's Upshift.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Upshift really does. I'm embarrassed because I know him. He's a friend of mine, but I'm not. His model has kind of evolved. But anyway, there's many ways to kind of have cars now and not own the car and not watch your car depreciate.
Yeah, I got rid of my car about 8 years ago, and I haven't had one. And so I usually use public transportation or Uber or Lyft, yeah, or trains, planes. So I've kind of gotten rid of that. And I think when autonomous vehicles come out, that I'm not sure. I think people probably go to sharing. Why own it? And I mean, some people will, but
yeah, it's a utility in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just to get A to B, unless let's hope it goes that way. Although I have debates about whether it's going to create more congestion or less congestion.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know what the right answer is, because on the one hand, you have all these autonomous vehicles. Like, what's to stop you from, let's say, like one example is you don't want to pay for parking.
Mm-hmm.
So you just tell the autonomous car to just drive around the block for like an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Just so that you don't, because it's cheaper. Or just tell him to like drive someplace where he doesn't need to pay for parking and then come back and pick you up. Instead of just paying for, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so theoretically, some people could, and because let's say you don't have to drive because you're in an autonomous car, you might then live even farther away. You could live a 2-hour drive away, and because you don't, it's like, I just sit in my car all day long. I could sleep. Hell, fuck it. You could just say 3 hours or 4 hours. You could just get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, jump in the car, pull back, and just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And wake up at 7 a.m. The car is still driving for you. And so you can live like totally far away. So you're in the end consuming much more fuel, much more gas. There's more cars on the road because of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a danger. I'm hoping they connect, the different autonomous vehicles link up and they hopefully hop onto the railroad tracks and the trolley lines. Usually you look at the railroad tracks and a train may come once or twice a day, but if you can use those and then also and connect up and then also collapse and be stored, and if we're all tied into the if they're very well tied in computer-wise, then hopefully you don't need bumpers or, they don't have to be big, because ideally they wouldn't get in an accident if we can get those foolproof. But
right,
I don't know. We'll see what's come. But a lot of companies are working on it. So yeah, hopefully we can get something coordinated. But you're right. There's a danger it could be more congested.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely, especially if the cost goes down. Again, if when the cost goes down, utilization goes up, right? I mean, gas gets cheaper, people drive more.
That's right.
It's just simple like that. So if all of a sudden, autonomous cars become super cheap, then hey, people were going to say, oh, okay, I'll use the car for all sorts of things.
Yeah. Of course, if we get the battery, if it's all electric and you have the really efficient power plants that are efficient and don't use a lot of, create a lot of smog, and then that might make that better.
And do you think that at some point you might get tired of traveling? I mean, you had kind of like, to sum up your life, Sim, you had your wild 20s, pretty classic story in some ways, 20s, you kind of vagabond, and then you, in your 30s and 40s and 50s even, you did the responsible thing. You had a job, you had a wife, you had children. And then entering your 60s, then all of a sudden you became the irresponsible teenager again.
Yeah, and I was glad that I was irresponsible in my 20s, traveling a lot, because then I realized there was other things besides, sitting in front of the TV or a career or work. And so I'd encourage young people to go out and be adventurous, because now I'm at this age and I'm kind of going, oh, there's so much of the world I want to see and experience. And so I thought that was a overall good thing that I did. But yeah, I'll probably get tired of it at some time and switch to something else. And I kind of hoped then to be able to do volunteer work or get involved politically, or do things that are more positive socially.
So what does that mean? Like for you politically, getting involved politically, what cause would you champion if you can kind of go out there and promote a particular cause? What the people who are listening to this and you want to convince them of something, what are you going to convince them of?
Well, I'd go for veganism, shoot for that.
Why is that important?
I think for the future of the planet. I don't think we can, a lot of people are being lifted out of poverty and they want to eat more meat, and they're, we're cutting down more forests and having more animals and, doing factory farms, and it's causing a lot of suffering and the climate change. I mean, we can't sustain that, and we need to do it sustainably and pull more people out of poverty. And I think veganism is a great way to go, and hopefully we can do it in a way that people will really want to do it. It's cheaper, it tastes better, it's better for you, you live longer. So hopefully we get to that point, and it's part of our culture. The other thing is the backpacking, the Pacific Crest Trail Association and the Continental Divide Trail Coalition, and to get more backpacking trails going. Yeah, I think those are the two main ones.
You don't think that, a lot of people make it about global warming just to play devil's advocate about it. I mean, one thing that frustrates me about the whole climate change people who really focus a lot about it, that they always focus on the negative. And that's my irritation that I have with the whole movement. I'm not denying it. I'm not a climate denier, climate change denier. I recognize that A, it's happening, and B, humans are a very important factor, and perhaps the main factor as well behind it. My point is that it's not all fucking bad news. In other words, there are some winners and losers, but we always just focus on the losers. And that is kind of the irritating. Like, for example, people might complain about, oh my God, the glaciers are disappearing and all this other stuff. Okay, but then, now there's new trails. You can see the trail. You can see what's behind that glacier. You can actually see there's the rock that was there. By the way, there's most of the mountains that we're hiking today, the PCT, was under glaciers before. Yeah. Are we crying about that? I mean, would you like those glaciers to be back? Because, by the way, the whole fucking PCT would be under glacier. Yeah. Everything. So would the AT. Everything would be buried under a mile worth of glacier. And yet it's not. And we love it the way it is. Mm-hmm. So Alaska, just imagine, all the glaciers are 100% gone. Would Alaska be a shithole? No. It would just be like the PCT. It would be like the John Muir Trail, which is pretty fucking pretty. So I guess I'm not trying to say, okay, therefore let's just not do anything for climate change. Let's not give a shit about this. But can we at least sometimes stop and think and say, okay, it's not 100% bad news.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's in the northern hemisphere up around the Arctic, it's going to probably be a lot better, but
I don't know. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's different.
Yeah.
It's just different. It's just going to be like the tundra. Yes, it will go away. The permafrost. I remember somebody saying, "Oh my God, the permafrost is going to disappear, and so that's the buildings are going to collapse." I'm like, yeah, but you'll be able to fucking grow a potato now. I mean, now you can't even grow potatoes because the permafrost is like not allowing you to grow any agriculture. Maybe you can grow something there and you won't have to import food from some far away, or kill all your whales or whatever you're doing up there to eat food, or kill your caribou or something like that. There's something that's going to benefit that. But they're like, oh my God, the permafrost is going. Well, aren't you happy that now instead of negative 60 degrees, it's only negative 30?
No, I agree. It's not all negative, but I think overall the negative overwhelms the positive. The water rising.
I think it's because we don't live where it's fucking cold. Right. In other words, that's why the negative, I agree with you. The negative does override the positive because we've all planted ourselves in places that are nice to live in right now at the current temperatures that we have. Nobody lives in fucking Antarctica because it's fucking cold in Antarctica. Nobody lives in Russia or Siberia or Canada, northern Canada, because it's fucking cold. Alaska, the Brooks Range. Who the fuck wants to live up there? It's fucking cold. But if all of a sudden the temperatures, if all the ice melts off the entire planet, it's going to be pretty sweet. And then 43 million years ago, approximately, during the what's it called, the thermal maximum of the Earth, where the average temperature was around 25 degrees Celsius. Right now it's 15 degrees Celsius. So there was no permanent ice anywhere on the planet 43 million years ago. There were 30 meter high trees in Antarctica. There was tropical fruit growing. I mean, they had mangoes up in Alaska and Canada at that same latitude, should I say. It's just different. In other words, it's just different. It would be a net negative, but no other species besides human beings can adjust as fast as we do and as easily as we could to the climate change. Again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm promoting.
Right, exactly.
I'm just trying to say, like, when we're in the deep depression and feeling terrible about the earth going to hell in a handbasket, to stop and slow down and say, wait. You know, A, we're going to adjust, and B, it's not all bad news. And, you know, more, you know, Canada is going to get a lot more people. Anyway, so that's my...
Yeah, the other thing I worry about, though, is a lot of storms are supposed to be a lot more volatile.
Yes, of course it will be.
Yeah,
when the earth heats up, you're going to have more stronger cyclones and stronger hurricanes and probably more tornadoes. Of course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which is a negative.
Which is definitely a negative. And that's going to, I mean, back in the thermal maximum when it was 25 degrees C, there was probably having a hurricane every fucking week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and the dinosaurs there were no dinosaurs then, but whatever species were running around were having a hell of a time getting blown right and left.
Yeah.
And getting like nailed all the time. And that was just a way of life. And yeah, but you're right. It's the rising temperatures will cause warmer temperatures in the water, and that of course is the fuel that these hurricanes need to get going. And that's but again, you know, it's like we have the technology to build really tough buildings, and but it is going to cause billions worth of damage, as well as, you know, at some point the people in Miami will just have to give up and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go to fucking Brooks Range in Alaska.
No, I agree. I think, I mean, whatever. I think we should try to do what we can to alleviate it. But I think your thing about we need to be resilient and flexible. And
we have no choice. We have no choice. And unfortunately,
exactly.
The way the human race is that we're going to wait until the shit hits the fan. That's when we're not going to change.
Right.
We're not going to change until fucking Miami's underwater, until San Francisco's underwater, and New York's underwater, and all these, and the Netherlands disappears and is no longer part of the United Nations, along with not Mauritius? What's the other one that's underwater?
Seychelles, isn't it?
No. There's one that starts with an M. It's not Mauritius. It's anyway. They're the lowest lying nation of all, and
Mauritania. No,
it's not Mauritania. God. Anyway, somebody will, who's listening. Anyway, those guys will.
Yeah.
It's going to be transformative. But here's another way of looking at it. And this is, again, my crazy opinions here. But 11,000, 12,000 years ago, when we entered the Holocene period and the Earth started warming up. And, for example, here in San Francisco, where we're at, the Farallon Islands, which are about 23 miles away, maybe about 40 kilometers away, that was where the shoreline was. Yeah. That was the shoreline. So you could walk out. You could walk across the bay. The Bay Area didn't exist. It was just a little valley with a river that went through the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge was a river, you know, and everywhere else you could walk. Angel Island was not an island. Angel Island, you could walk to Angel Island. It was a hill.
Oh, hill. Yeah.
Right. And so was Treasure Island. Anyway, this is for those who are listening who know about San Francisco. But it doesn't matter. You can pick anywhere on the planet. The sea was much, much lower. And then the temperatures rose and flooded all these areas slowly but surely, not overnight. And this was what? Primitive human beings 11,000 years ago who didn't have satellites, didn't have GPS, didn't have any kind of technology whatsoever, except for knowing how to make a fucking stick and a bow and arrow or something like that. And they fucking survived.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So don't you think that we can pull through with all the tech? Now, of course, there's almost 8 billion of us now. So
we may lose a few billion because of that.
I don't know if we'll lose a few billion, but anyway, the point is that it's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to be costly, and it's going to be disruptive. But here's again my main point: is that there's going to be winners. There's going to be species that win, that are going to be happy. You know, the polar bear is going to go to hell in a handbasket, but the brown bear is going to have new territory. You know, the brown bear is going to be really happy to go into all this area that the polar bear currently dominates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just a cycle of life. In other words, it's anyway, I can go on and on about this topic, but
yeah, no, good points. It's not a free lunch either way.
Yeah.
No such thing.
Anyway, Sim, always a pleasure.
Yes.
It's great to see you, and I hope we have some more adventures together. It sounds like maybe Burning Man might be one of our next adventures, but you never know. Let's have them sooner than later. You're not into social. I mean, it's not like you're not into social media, but you don't have a website or anything like that. Nobody can kind of.
And actually,
you have a Twitter page? Nothing.
No, I don't take pictures. I'm on Facebook. But
It's because you're that ugly.
Yes. I don't like the cell phone or the camera to get in the way of my enjoying the experience. So, and maybe I'm selfish, but I just like to see the things. And, and actually after being in Nepal, it's like, okay, nothing else seems really that spectacular to take pictures.
It's that good.
Yeah.
Did you take a picture of Nepal? No.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
But then that was it. After that, it's kind of like, okay,
Everything else is just...
Yeah, the AT is beautiful, but it doesn't compare with Nepal.
Yeah. No, the AT doesn't compare to the PCT, for God's sakes. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, yeah.
But so there's no way for people to kind of like follow along your journey or any kind of stuff like that?
You can find me on Facebook, and maybe I might get motivated and start putting more, or get a web page or something. But no, just
Sim Blanchard.
Yes, and my trail name Symbiosis. So,
yes, and that's because
actually I was given that in the 5th grade. I was taking a biology class, and we were studying symbiosis, and my name is on my name cards is Sim B. And so everybody in class was calling me Symbiosis. And then at work, for some reason, they were calling me Symbiosis.
But your real given name was?
Sim, S-Y-M.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're an inspiration. And a lot of people, there's all these travel bloggers that have a high profile, that have web pages and all sorts of social media stuff. But behind them, there's an army of people like you who are quietly, without much fuss, having adventuresome, fulfilling lives that are really fulfilling lives as well. And I think it's a beautiful thing, whether you decide to be public about it. They both have pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with I don't see it as being selfish about not post. I mean, the flip side is humility, right? It could just be people say it as, oh, no, you're humble. You're not bragging about, hey, I did this. No. But it's just, it's remarkable. And it's I think it should be a sign of courage for people, because some people might look at these travel bloggers or these people who climb crazy mountains and they say, oh, those guys look superhuman. I can't do it. But then they realize like how many people are like you who are, and they're not that many, but there's enough that are doing this quietly, that actually the population of nutheads like you and me is actually bigger than they might think.
Yeah. We're out there, and we like to get involved and do the adventures. And you're my mentor, Francis. You inspired me with your books, and the Eastern Europe, and especially Hike Your Own Hike. And I'm really looking forward to your next book. And
yeah, the Unseen Africa. Let's see. We got to put that one together. I got to write.
But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Likewise, Sim. Happy trails. And that concludes this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel technology and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we talked about, or if you'd like to comment on the show, or if you'd like to ask me a question, then go to wanderlearn.com and click on the latest episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is the username I use on all social media. You can also get to my website by going to ftapon.com. Here's one last reason to remember Tapon. If you like what I do and want to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ yep, you guessed it, ftapon. That's where you can pick up some sweet rewards for as little as $1 a month. And remember, subscribing to the WanderLearn podcast helps, but downloading each episode helps even more. Please share the podcast, review it, and sign up for my newsletter at wanderlearn.com. This show was edited by Rejoice Tapon. The music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.